Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Stampin Studio. I'm Jeannie Cioli from Madera Ranch, California. Oh, excuse me. And I am so excited that you're here. I have a great little technique to share with you today. It's called faux tearing. So let's get started. I'm going to bring you down to the desk. And let's move all of this out of the way. And this is the card I'm going to be sharing with you today. It features the framed florets stamp set and the framed and festive stamp set. This is a new collection that Stampin' Up! Just introduced on November 1st and is available for a limited time. On top of that, we are going to be using the Fitting Florets Designer Series paper that is also part of that collection. And you know what? We have dies to match as well. So look at these fantastic dies. I love these ovals. You'll probably see me using those more and more throughout the next month. All right, so let's go ahead and create our project. Now I'm going to have a PDF with all the measurements and the products on my stampwithjeannie.com website. So feel free to go over there and download that information, but I will give it to you here as well. So the first thing we're going to need is a piece of soft succulent cardstock that is 5.5 by 8.5. Now you don't have to use these exact products. You can create this card with any of your favorite stamps and designer series paper as well. So feel free to cut paper that you like best. Okay, so we have that. We have a piece of evening evergreen and a piece of basic white that are both 4 by 5.25. We have a piece of designer series paper. For this, you'll want one that has kind of a muted background. And this is 3 13/16 by 5 1/16. I have a scrap piece of thick white cardstock to do some stamping on. And then I have some of the evening evergreen, the So Saffron, and the thick white, just scrap pieces to do some die cutting. I am also using the green ribbon from our Real Red and Garden Green 3/8 of an inch ribbon combo pack. And I believe that's all we need. We will also be using the 2021-23 in color opal rounds. And anything else, we'll see that as I go through the video. All right, so the first thing we are going to do is fold our large piece of So Saffron, not So Saffron, I'm sorry. Oh my goodness, soft succulent cardstock in half. This is a live video, so you get me with all of my creative opportunities. It is not going to be perfect, so hang in there with me. All right, so we have that. We can set that aside for a second. And let's get our piece of designer series paper. Okay, we're going to be doing some stamping on this. So let me grab, I'm going to get a piece of grid paper here to slide underneath because we're going to be going on beyond our card, and I want to keep my card surface clean. So we're just going to put that on there so we can do some stamping. All right, so now I have some Post-it notes. These are large Post-it notes that have the adhesive over the entire thing. This is what I like to use for masking. We also have masking paper in the Stampin' Up! Catalog that I haven't had a chance to try yet. So we're going to go ahead and use the Post-it note here. And the first thing we're going to do is just rip this in half. Okay, I like to rip through several sheets at a time. So if I need more, I have them. Okay, so I have just ripped that in half. let's go ahead and take this, and we're going to mask off the bottom here. But what I want to do is I want to make sure that I'm going to have enough room down in this right-hand corner for my sentiment. And for this card, I'm going to be using the Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas. That's going to go right down here in this corner. So I know that my line is here. So I just want to make sure that I bring this all the way down so I have room for that sentiment after I do my stamping. Okay, now you want to keep both sides of your paper here. So right now we're using the bottom piece, and we'll use this top piece in a moment. Okay, so I am going to get my stamp here. So we're going to use the leaf stamp. This leaf stamp right here from the Frame Florets stamp set. And I'm going to use Evening Evergreen ink. And I'm just going to stamp this image, rotating it each time across the top part of this piece of Designer Series paper. And while I have this stamp out, I'm going to bring this over here like this. And I have my envelope. I like to decorate my envelopes as well. In my stamping world, there's no such thing as a naked envelope. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp these leaves across the left side of this envelope, just to make it nice and pretty as well. Take this over here. I'm going to clean up my stamp real quick so it's ready for the next time I want to use it. Okay. And you may have noticed that when I stamped, I did kind of miss this little area right here. But what's so great about the Stampin' Up! Products is that they all match perfectly. The ink that's in my ink pad is the same ink that's in this pen. So I can go back with this marker, and I'm just going to go over these areas. Just like this. And I don't think anyone will notice that. Okay, so there's my envelope. I'm going to set that aside for later. We have our piece here. Let's go back to this. I'm going to use a blending brush and the Evening Evergreen ink, and I'm going to add a little bit of shading around the edges. Okay, I'm going to tap off most of that ink. Anytime you use a blending brush, you want to tap it off on some extra paper just to get this oval shape kind of dissipated, so you won't have that showing when you just stamp. So let me show you. If I just were to go on the paper and do this, see how I have that blob of ink in the middle? You don't want that. You want to get a little bit off the sides first. Okay, and then I'm just going around the edges here and a little bit in the center. I want it light in the center and a little bit darker around the edges and a little bit across the bottom. All right, so that looks perfect. Now I'm going to take this and I'm going to move it down slightly to give myself a little border here. You can see that border. That's going to be my ripped edge. And I'm going to take the matching top piece and I'm going to cover up this area here. So I just have this little strip showing in the middle. Now I'm going to take a sponge dauber and I'm going to load that with the evergreen ink and I'm going to color in that open area. And I want that to be nice and dark. I'm going to go over it a few times. And there we go. Right, so now I can take this off and I have my torn edge look. And it looks like there's another piece of paper on top without all the bulk. That's so fun. All right, so now what you want to do, this part is optional. This looks great the way it is, but I like to take a light stamping blend. So I'm using the gray granite, the light gray granite, and I'm just going to add another little shadow below that stitching line. So I'm just going to, I don't want it to be a perfect line. I'm kind of scribbling it so it looks like it's torn a little bit as well. And this is going to be very subtle, but it just gives a little bit of shadow below our torn edge here. Okay, so hopefully you can see that well on your screen. Okay, so let's go ahead and stamp our sentiment down in this corner. And I'm using the framed and festive stamp set, and we're going to use this Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas. And we're going to use From Our Home to Yours. So I'm going to start with the From Our Home to Yours on this corner here. And then on our white piece, that's the same size as this, we are going to stamp the Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas. But for that, I'm going to use Cherry Cobbler ink. Now I'm going to have several samples to show you using this faux tear technique. So if you have time to hang in there and watch till the end, that would be great. You can see some additional design ideas. Get all these things out of the way. All right, so we have that. But you know what? I think I want to put one of our little leaf images on this as well. So I'm going to take the leaf and I think I'm just going to put that right down here. So we have some pretty design on the inside of our card as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and put this together. So we are going to take our designer series paper piece and we are going to put that on our 4 by 5 1/4 inch evening evergreen. The one thing about our designer series paper is that we have patterns on both sides, which is awesome because you get twice the designs. But sometimes the paper is so beautiful, you have a hard time deciding what side to use. I love that these papers have a side that's more vibrant and a side that's a little bit more subtle that can be used for any occasion. All right, so we have this. We are going to take a piece of our green ribbon here. Now, it looks fine like this, but the color's a little off to me. So what we're going to do is we are going to shade that with a stamping blend. So I'm using the light evening evergreen stamping blend. And I'm going to take this and I'm going to color over our ribbon. Now that's what I love about our ribbons is all of our ribbons, I believe, I haven't tried them all, but so far I haven't come across one that doesn't work. You can use the stamping blend to make it any color you would like. Okay, just keep in mind that if you're using a ribbon that has color, you would normally want to use one that's just white. But if you're using one that has any kind of color, you have to keep that color in mind when you're coloring over it. So if you were to use a, let's say a yellow ribbon, and tried to color it over with blue, you're going to end up with a green piece of ribbon. So just keep that in mind. We have lots of ribbon in white that you can start with. So I'm going to just set this aside for a second and let that dry. And while I'm letting that ribbon dry, I'm going to go ahead and put our inside piece on the inside of our card base. And just put that right in the middle on the right hand side of the score line. So we have that. And then I'm going to get that scrap piece of the thick white cardstock. And I like to stamp on my stamping pierce mat. I just have a piece of black copy paper over the top just to protect that mat. But this is the perfect sponge that is helps you get a better image when you're using our clear photopolymer stamps. Okay, this stamp doesn't have any rubber or sponge underneath, so you don't get that give to get that better image, where the red rubber stamp already has a sponge underneath, so you can use it on any hard surface. All right, so I am getting the flower, the two small flower images and our leaf image, and I'm going to stamp those on this extra piece of thick white cardstock in Memento black ink. And I have just mounted these flowers on here together. Just to make it to where I can just stamp both images at the same time, save a little time there. And then I need one of our green leaves as well. Okay. And I'm going to just do a little bit of coloring now, just in case you're not familiar with our stamping blends. They are my favorite coloring tool. You could also use markers, you can use watercolors, you can use watercolor pencils, color pencils, anything you want to color in these images. I prefer the stamping blends. So I'm going to use the dark cherry cobbler and the light real red. And I'm going to start with the dark cherry cobbler, and I'm just going to color this large flower down here. Don't worry, I am not going to color all of these images in front of you right now. I just want to give you a little bit of hints for how to get a good image when you color. But these stamping blends really do all of the work for you. They make you look like you're a fantastic artist, even if you've never colored like this before. Okay, so now I'm going to use the lines that Stampin' Up gave us here to show us where shadowing would be. And so we would have a little bit of shadow up here. We have these little lines here. We're just going to go ahead and add a little bit of the cherry cobbler to those lines. Okay, and then we're going to add cherry cobbler over these black lines here. So you can see I'm not like trying to be a perfect artist here. I'm just kind of scribbling over those lines that Stampin' Up! Has provided for us. Okay, now I'm going to take the real red and I'm going to cover over the top of that. And I like to use a swirling motion. And what's going to happen is the real red ink is going to blend with that cherry cobbler ink and give you a nice shaded effect. Okay, as that dries, those colors are going to blend together even better. For the leaves, I am going to use the dark soft succulent and the light soft succulent. So I'm going to once again start with the dark, and I'm just going to add a little bit of dark color to the center of each one of these leaves. Now you can take your time and be very meticulous on how you add this color, but trust me, people are on these small flowers here, you're not going to notice if they're not just perfect. Okay, so now I'm going to add the soft succulent and blend those two colors together. Now, if you like to fussy cut, and fussy cutting is just hand cutting this design out, you do not need the dies, but I am so thankful, and I know a lot of you are as well, that Stampin' Up! Has created dies for all of these images as well. That will help us cut these out quick and easy. So you can see that we would have, here's the one for our leaves, and we have one for the small flower, and we have one for the large flower. Now the large flower, I need to color that center there. So I'm going to use the dark daffodil to just add a little color in the center. Okay, and then I can take this over to my stamp emboss machine, and I can take these and cut them out. Now I like to use Post-it tape to just hold these images. I'll put these on, I'll put the Post-it tape on, oops, before I run it through the die cut machine. That will hold that die in place and make sure that I get a nice cut as it goes through. Okay, but through the magic of the genie lamp, we already have the images that we need cut and die cut out. Save us a little time here. Okay, I have also die cut out of those cardstock scrap pieces that I told you about. I've cut out 4 of our detailed leaves die cuts. Okay, so I think our ribbon is dry now. So we can take this, it really only takes a few seconds for that to dry. We are going to take and add this to our card. I like to put the adhesive on the back here just to help me align this on the front. And this is a 7-inch piece of ribbon. I like to have that help me hold it in place. And then I take Scotch tape and hold it down. Okay, just a little extra security there for me. Plus, it's easier to run the tape runner over the top of that tape than it is over the ribbon. Okay, so we're going to take this now And we are going to put it on the front of our card base. Now make sure that your card is opening in the right direction, that your inside stamping is in the right direction. And then let's go ahead and put that on here. And then we need to start gluing our die cut pieces on top. So I have my little silicone craft sheet here. If you're not familiar with this, this is something I highly recommend that you have in your collection because it can be used for so many things. I use it on my Stamparatus to help lift my cardstock a little bit higher to get a easier stamped image using the Stamparatus. And I use it for all types of glue, whether it be liquid glue, hot glue, your snail adhesive, or any type of adhesive that you want to use on here. You can, it will dry. When it's dry, you can just peel it right off. All right, so we're going to start with our dark green, so our evening evergreen, and I'm using our multi-purpose liquid adhesive. And I'm just going to put little drops of adhesive here and there if my glue will run. Let's see here. There we go. So little tiny drops, and I'm putting them on the little berries. Anywhere I have a little bit more room to add adhesive, I'm just going to put that on there. The rest of it I can leave free flowing. And now I can take this and I'm going to glue it to the top over here in the middle, just like that. Okay, let's take one of the white pieces. Now, when you die cut a piece, the ends, the side edges kind of fold to the back a little bit. I want to use this leaf in the opposite direction. So I'm just going to take my bone folder and I'm going to carefully just flatten that piece out a little bit. Okay, be very careful because this is a very delicate die cut. Okay, so now I can use that in this direction without it looking like it's upside down. Once again, let's just add a little bit of adhesive. Another thing that I love when I use my silicone mat is if my adhesive is too goopy on here, I can just take it, put it down. It's pulling off that excess. So when I put my die cut piece on, there's not going to be a big glob of glue. I've gotten rid of those globs over here. Okay, but there's still enough glue to hold those pieces together. All right, let's do our So Saffron piece. I keep saying so saffron, soft, succulent. I have So Saffron on the brain, evidently. Let's go ahead and put this down at the bottom. And I want to add another white piece. I didn't need it to be quite as large, so I cut a little bit off. And we're going to bring that right over here. Okay, now we have our flowers, and I cut out a bunch. I always like to color a lot and then just have them to play with when I'm ready to put together my card. So I have more than I need here, but we're just going to go ahead and we're going to add a couple of large ones. Let's add a small one to that. And then we'll add a small one up here to extend that a little bit. Oh, we have this leaf as well. So let's add this leaf first. just going to put that in there. Hold that down for a second to let it seal. Okay, so for my 2 large leaves and one of the small leaves, or flowers, not leaves, flowers. Words are hard. Oh my goodness. Good thing you're looking at a picture of what I'm doing rather than just listening to me. All right. So there we have those. And this flower, we're going to go ahead and glue with the multi-purpose adhesive. So let's go ahead and do that. Just going to stick that in there. And then we have our other flowers here. So let's put those down here at the bottom of this stem. So pretty. All right. I like to add bling to all of my projects. I love sparkle and I never feel like you can have enough sparkle. So I am going to add some of the green, the light green gems here. So let's add it here. Now, when I put my gems on, I always like to do it in kind of a triangular shape. This one doesn't want to come off this way. Okay, well, I'll do it this way. There's a little putty at the Take Your Pick tool. Oh, this is another tool that if you don't have, I highly recommend. It's our Take Your Pick tool, and it has all kinds of ends that you can do on your tool. So this just screws off and it becomes a little spatula. There is also the little adhesive for the picking up small pieces. And we have the stylus tool that has 2 size balls at the end. So there's just so many things, and it's a very inexpensive tool, but it's one that I use all of the time and highly, highly, highly recommend it. Okay, now if you don't already have a demonstrator and you would like to shop with me, you can do so at my online store that will be listed in the comments below. Okay, so I truly appreciate any orders. That helps me keep in business here. So let me go ahead and add another small one up here. So I have these 3 at the top. I'm going to have another small one down here in this little corner. And let's put another big one down here. Okay, so like I said, I always like to do kind of a triangular shape. So you'll see that here. And then I also like to do it in odd numbers. So I'll either use 1, 3, or 5 gems when I'm putting it on a card. That is easier on the eye as well. So there we go. There we have our card. Here is the inside of the card. Here is our envelope. And here is the front of our card. So pretty. Let me show you some additional ideas. Okay, so for the papers that we just used, I wanted to make it an everyday card as well. And because I use such muted colors, I was able to just cut out these flowers from the designer series paper and put those on instead of our stamped images. So you can see how that just changes the whole look of that card just by changing the colors that are on top here. Okay. Then I used our soft Seedlings stamp set. Now, I just did a online card class in the mail that featured this stamp set, and a lot of my customers have purchased it. So I wanted to give them an additional idea to use with their stamp set. So if you'd like to find out about any of my online classes, be sure to sign up for my mailing list on my stampwithjeannie.com website. That's the best way to get the latest and greatest information about what's happening in my business and Stampin' Up! As a whole. So be sure to join my mailing list for that information. Okay, you'll get a newsletter once a month telling you all kinds of fun stuff, and it has free tutorials as well. All right, so we're going to use the soft seedling stamp set. Now, I wanted to use the color and contours stamp set to add some cluster dots to my image, but then I realized I didn't own the color and contours stamp set. I don't know what happened there, but it will be coming in my next order. But I just pulled out one of our retired stamp sets called Gorgeous Grunge, and I used that for these cluster dots here. Now, Stampin' Up! Has a ton of stamp sets that have cluster dots, and I'm sure if you have a stamping collection, you have cluster dots in there. Okay, so here is the card I made with that soft seedling stamp set. And for this one, I just used blending brushes with daffodil, pumpkin pie, and granny apple green. I added that border of the light granite stamping blend. I overstamped with the leaf image in Cajun Craze, and then I used stamping blends to just add colors to those leaves. So there is another idea for you. Okay, and then I decided I was having so much fun playing with this yesterday, I couldn't stop. So then I decided to use my Celebrate Sunflower stamp set that comes with a set of dies called sunflower dies that match those images perfectly. And this is the design that I made with this one. Now, the only thing different here is I added some die cuts from this sunflower die set. These are die cut as well. And then these little white dots were put on with a chalk marker. But once I did that, I realized we don't carry the chalk marker anymore. So hopefully you have a white gel pen or a chalk marker in your collection as well. Now these dots here, they look a little darker on the screen than they do in person. But what I did for this is I just used our darker green gems here, and I colored over those with the brown stamping right marker, or not right. Oh my goodness, not the right marker, the stamping blend. So I used the SU 100 stamping blend to color that. So once again, not only do the blends color the markers, they color our gems as well. Color the markers. Oh my goodness, I cannot get the words out of my mouth correctly today, but I'm sorry, I can't re-record. And I don't do editing. What you get is what you see is what you get with me. So hang in there. Hopefully you know what I'm saying. Oh my goodness. All right, so you can color with our stamping blends to get our gems to be any color you would like them to be as well. All right. And last but not least, I used the Leaves of Holly stamp set and our Knit Together stamp set or stamp. This is a large background stamp. And I created this design. It looks a little dark on the screen, but oh my gosh, it's so beautiful in person. Now, the only thing different that I did here was I masked off the white piece of cardstock, and then I stamped over the open area with this Knit Together background stamp to get that nice pattern on the back, and then stamped all the images on top. Okay, I put a little bit of old olive ink along the edge, and then went over the edge with the evening evergreen as well. Now, if you're wondering, this looks like it's wrapped around this torn piece here. If you're wondering how I did that, I just took an X-Acto knife and I made a little slit wide enough for the ribbon to go through on both ends, and then just tied a knot in the center. All right, those are the samples I had to share with you today. Let me bring those back out so you can see them all together. Bring it up here, try to get them on the screen. There we go, bring that down a little bit. And we have one more. Where's ours? Oh, there it is. And there is our leaf for fall. There we go. Oh my gosh. Thank you for understanding when I couldn't get the right words. My brain was thinking faster than my mouth was speaking. And so hopefully I caught all those little messages I gave you that weren't right and fixed those for you. Thank you for your understanding. I am who I am. Thank you so much for joining me. If you enjoyed this video, please share it. If you really enjoyed it, please subscribe to my YouTube page here. I would really appreciate that. That helps me grow my business and share what I love to do with more and more people. So thank you so much. If you ever have any questions, I'm always just an email away at stampwithjeannie@cox.net. And I look forward to stamping with you again soon. Take care, everyone. Don't forget to join me for Motivation Monday each week on Facebook at Stamp with Jeannie, and join me live so you have a chance to learn tips, tricks, techniques, and even a chance to win a prize or two. Thanks so much, everybody. Take care.